Hi everyone. I've met many of you before, but I'm Krista Kaarre and I'm the program manager with the Housing Advocate Network. So you're likely aware, just since you are all so tied into Family Promise, that we are one of the sister programs with MIC. So I work with PJ and Rebecca at MIC as one of the staff members there. And I'm with the Housing Advocate Network, and then of course we also have the Missoula Work. So the three programs all together. But quite a few months ago, actually, Rebecca asked if I would be willing to come and share at your meeting here tonight with just a little bit more info about it. Probably many have heard of it, but just a little more details about our program, how participants can get connected with it, and then what it's like, kind of the role for volunteers, how our program runs. So what is the Housing Advocate? Like many of the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative programs, we've recently gone through a lot of our year-long strategy setting. And in that process, our director, Zeke, and I worked together on the strategy, and we wrote up a narrative that started our whole strategy. And it's a little wordy here, and I know the PowerPoint rule of not putting too many words on a screen. But I really liked the work that went into that and the sort of mission statement that Zeke wrote to open our strategy. And if it's all right, I'll actually just read it out loud to you. Go ahead. The Housing Advocate Network is a coalition of everyday people in Missoula who support individuals and families experiencing or at risk of houselessness. While we offer tangible housing navigation support, we believe that meaningful help begins with trusting, supportive relationships. In these relationships, we are all, participants and volunteers alike, better equipped to pursue our goals, realize our ideas, and make sense of the systems around us. CAN exists to bridge connections across social margins, not by becoming experts, but by showing up as allies in dignity, belonging, and practical support. Together, we build a community of healing and work towards a better Missoula. This next. So how do we do that? We have weekly drop-in housing navigation sessions, which happen at multiple locations throughout Missoula. And those drop-in times is people can come, no appointment necessary. We share those times on social media, in flyers with a lot of our referral partners. Other social service agencies and organizations around Missoula know about us. We share and post flyers publicly. We have those Monday through Friday at different times throughout the week, and people can get connected with our services. Our other way that we do our work is through what we call matching, and that is a little bit more specific than kind of just dropping in, dropping out. Don't need to have an appointment, can come as many times as someone likes or as little. That's kind of the drop-in housing model. Being matched with a volunteer is really facilitating a relationship with a specific volunteer that an individual or a family will meet with the same volunteer weekly for an ongoing relationship and ongoing support that becomes a little bit more regular. So we try to offer these two models for people to connect with our services. One that can be kind of light touch drop in, and another that is, really anchoring to, I want to get to know someone. I want someone to meet with me, be in that relationship that might be a little bit more ongoing. This is a slide pulled from one of our orientations. We do volunteer orientations anytime someone would like to be a part of our program and volunteer, and just some principles that we have. One of them being that housing is a basic need, basic human need, that housing insecurity impacts our whole community in ways. Trusting relationships are an important part for personal change, and that professional, political, and financial supports are not enough. We do have some wonderful organizations, agencies in Missoula. There's a lot of people. This is not an issue that's go under the radar, right? There are a lot of people working in housing in this space, and there's a lot of good work happening. But we believe that there is a role for volunteers and everyday community members, and then community change happens through strong, trusting relationships. All right. If you know of someone or hear of someone who's facing a housing challenge, or you're wondering, how do people hear about your program? How can they connect? This is a portion of our flyer. The three listed on the left-hand side are our drop-in times that people can come to. That really is the first step if someone wants to be matched, is interested in that ongoing relationship. Usually they come through one of our 3 drop-in times, and that's when they'll meet with a volunteer, they can talk about what's going on, and they can share. I really love to be connected with a volunteer, and from there we have a process to match them with volunteers. So usually that is the first step, that people can come to one of our drop-in times to connect with a volunteer. And then a note on the side here that we have an entire team of volunteers that work with families who are currently living at the Family Housing Center. And those families can connect with a hand volunteer, and that we have a process in collaboration with the YWCA, and they get referrals through their case manager sent to me.
It's just so individuals can drop in and get help as well.
Yes. So for individuals at the Watershed Navigation Center starting next week, and the Missoula Food Bank, we do try to have the Family Housing Center reserved for families. That's how we share about it.
Oh, no, I just had it in my mind it was all only for families and all those, but good to know.
Yep. Nope. Any individual, any family or household size is welcome in our drop-in spaces. Yeah. So that's how people who are facing a housing challenge can connect with our services. Those are the places that they can go. Again, those times and locations are advertised pretty widely around the community on our website, in our social media. This slide is a little bit more about how is our program run from the volunteer side, and what are the different roles? How does the Housing Advocate Network use volunteers? We are primarily volunteer-led, which you guys are all very familiar with. Family Promise, just the role that volunteers can have in our programs. We have different roles. Some volunteers really want to work one-on-one. They really enjoy building that ongoing relationship. Some really have a heart for families, for children, and that's what they want to do. Some would prefer to work the group space. They maybe, for timing reasons or other reasons, would prefer the drop-in times where they can be working alongside other volunteers. Those times are set, so they're a little bit more predictable in the schedule. They happen in the same place, same time every week. That fits in really well with some people's lives. Others maybe prefer the individual matching because they can set that a little bit more on their own schedule, and that works really well for some of our volunteers. We also have volunteers that work with our other program, Missoula Works, to provide mentorship, and part of that includes navigating housing, if that's a challenge that one of our Missoula Works employees is facing. So we work, kind of work closely with Missoula Works with our volunteers there. And then the Just Neighbors Stabilization Program, that is a very big collaborative effort with Family Promise. I'm sure you all have heard of that program. That's another place for hand volunteers. Who can be a hand volunteer? You'll see reflected here something that's a continuation of that mission statement, that there is a role for everyday people. So we do emphasize with our volunteers and also with our participants when they come in, we want to set expectations that our volunteers are not professional case managers, they're not social workers, we're not housing experts, we're not property managers. We are people who are willing to walk alongside someone who's facing a pretty big challenge. And that's our starting point. And we believe that providing those safe and supportive relationships does leave our whole community better off, and that through that power of social connection, it really does allow space for people who are navigating something hard to problem solve creatively when they have a support next to them, someone to bounce ideas off of, someone to encourage them to take the next step. All right. But what do our volunteers actually do? One of the first things, and again, some of those reflections from the mission statement and the principles of our program, getting to know a person when someone walks into our drop-in space, really taking that moment to greet them, get to know their name, sit them down, see if they need anything, introduce yourself, provide an engaged and kind presence, be a non-judgmental listener. Normalize experiences and provide encouragement. Oftentimes, it can be easy to think that you're the only one facing a challenge when you're in the middle of it, especially if it's one that's high stress or crisis, leaves you with a lot of worries. You can wonder why it's happening to you or what you did wrong specifically. Our volunteers, one of the things that we can do is normalize that navigating housing in Missoula is pretty tough right now. There are a lot of factors at play, and everyone's experience is different, and everyone's path through their challenge is going to be a little bit different than another person's. So we can normalize that, and we can provide some encouragement. We lead what we call housing problem-solving conversations. This is a big part of our training. But an overview of that is process of asking open-ended questions to understand someone's housing goals, what will work for them and their family. It's an opportunity to generate ideas, think creatively, identify and solve barriers that might be coming up. Housing barrier may be something like having poor credit, which is oftentimes if you apply to a property manager, they may have a credit threshold, and it might be easy for them to just immediately reject your application if your credit is below a certain set amount. So someone may come in feeling discouraged because they have low credit and they're getting denied from property management companies. That's something that's a barrier that we might be able to help problem solve. We learn alongside, and we can share resources, we can advocate on it. There are tangible things that we do every day in our drop-in spaces and that volunteers throughout the community are meeting with their participants, helping with. Replacing missing documents. Most housing property managers or applying for housing, you need to submit a copy of your ID or a copy of your social security card. Some people have lost those or they've been stolen. And so the process of getting those replacement cards is often a first step if someone's trying to apply for housing. Knowing what's available, where can you look? And where can you look for the type of housing that someone might be interested in? Some people have creative ideas about sharing space. Some people need to be in a certain area that's geographically close to their kids' school or to their workplace. Some people need to be on a ground floor unit because of mobility. So looking for available homes, filling out applications. We share about other housing resources available in Missoula. We print and make copies of paperwork. That can be a big one when you need to print an application or make a copy of a bank statement. In our drop-in spaces can have computers and printer. Navigating and applying for housing assistance program. That's often voucher programs or other affordable programs through the housing authority. Talking with landlords, helping make phone calls. That can be a really great role for a volunteer. Sometimes making a call to a landlord or asking questions can feel intimidating. I know it can for me sometimes. And having someone to sit next to you, maybe on speakerphone, would you like to call together? And you can offer to help make that phone call. You can offer to help ask some questions. You can maybe brainstorm some questions you need answered before we make the phone call. Those are all things that our volunteers help with. Again, with addressing barriers, connection to other services available in town. And in our drop-in spaces, we also invite, all of our participants are invited to our MIC community meal that happens monthly. So another invitation to community is always something that our volunteers are able to do. A little bit about how the Housing Advocate Network teams and trainings work. This is a little bit more again on just how does the Housing Advocate Network operate and function. all of our volunteers, no matter which space that they're volunteering in, maybe they're at the walk-ins room once a week at the Family Housing Center. Maybe they're meeting individually with a participant on their own. Maybe they're volunteering at the food bank. All of our volunteers are connected on a team. So in a smaller group of other volunteers, and each team has their own sort of schedule, but they meet regularly. I imagine similar to your coordinators meeting tonight. You meet regularly, and that provides a place to learn from each other, to share resources, support each other. So we have pretty robust teams of volunteers that meet with each other. New volunteers are often paired with an experienced volunteer, especially when they're getting started. So at some of our drop-in times, that might look like a new volunteer coming and sitting with me, sitting next to me while I have a conversation a few times, sitting with another volunteer before they feel like they're ready to sit down with someone on their own. For the volunteers that pair with someone, that often looks like an experienced volunteer working with a new volunteer to meet with someone and meet weekly, as long as it takes for that person to become housed or to find a solution. And they often do that 1 or 2 times. It depends on the volunteer, and then they feel ready to move on. But the hope here is just that the volunteers feel supported in their work and that they're not getting burnt out or feeling overwhelmed or lost, that we do want to provide a lot of support for the program by our volunteers supporting each other. And volunteers are invited to ongoing trainings. We are actually starting just this week a new model for our trainings that are kind of broadly now kind of across all of our programs. We're going to have a 45-minute topic training conversation at the beginning of our community meals that happen once a month. And so this Thursday is our first community meal that will start out with a short training, and a staff member from the Missoula Housing Authority is going to come this Thursday to talk about subsidized housing and affordable housing specifically. And so it's a chance for our volunteers, but also for anyone in the community to come and learn about that resource, gain some knowledge, ask some questions. So we're really excited to see how that goes. It'll be our first one this Thursday.
Because otherwise, were they just the meals and people just talk to each other?
Mm-hmm.
So this way, then there's, okay, I like that potential too.
Yeah. So far the community meals have been a great place to gather and eat. And there's often been some sort of activity like art or karaoke or board games. But this month will be the first month that we actually have a short presentation at the beginning. Yeah. And then just some upcoming housing advocate orientations or things that are kind of starting new. One of the places I showed earlier in the slide of how people can connect with our program is at the Watershed Navigation Center. And it actually hasn't started yet. Our program, our volunteers had participated in the housing sprint effort with the closing of the Johnson Street shelter. So from April through the end of August, our volunteers had been participating twice a week in that effort. And those on-site times where we had volunteers able to provide housing navigation to people coming in ended at the end of August. The Johnson Street shelter is now closed. And we are moving over to the Watershed Navigation Center, which is over on Mullen Road. And we'll be providing those drop-in times twice a week there. The first one will be next Monday, but this week on Wednesday, we're having a volunteer walkthrough and a short new volunteer orientation. So any community members that might be interested in volunteering and providing support at the Watershed are welcome to come. We're gonna just have that time. There will be no people coming as participants during that time. That will just be for volunteers on Wednesday. Space, see kind of the flow of how people will be coming in, where all of our equipment's going to be stored, kind of just get a rundown of the place, and then we'll start next Monday.
Well, where is 2200 Mullen Road? Mullen Road's the one.
Yeah, if you go out, yeah,
Okay,
if you're going up Broadway and turn left, It's not too far down. It's attached to the new apartment complex there with
Okay.
Trinity.
Yep.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
Where did the name watershed navigation come from? What is?
I don't know where the name came from. Yeah. That's a good
I wouldn't
question.
connect it to any of this. So just
Yeah.
think, but yeah.
Yeah, so the Watershed Navigation Center is not our place or program. It's they have their own services there.
Okay.
And we'll just be using that space.
Okay.
Yeah, similar to the Missoula Food Bank, we go to the Missoula Food Bank to provide our 2-hour housing workshop every week. But we use their community space. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So we have that coming up, yeah. Try it again. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Krista?
How many HON volunteers are there altogether?
All together with our Missoula Works mentors and our Just Neighbors stabilization and all of our teams, we have almost 130.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many people typically drop in on a weekly basis?
In the drop-in times, it's very varied. I think last time at the food bank, we maybe had close to 10 people come in. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Yeah, in a 2-hour block. So those drop-in times, all of them are scheduled for a 2-hour time frame. Yeah. Yeah, any other questions about the program?
Great.
Well, thank you, Krista.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you as well.